Today I'm going to be making meatballs with penny pasta. I'm going to be using just a few ingredients and limited cooking utensils. I'm going to have other pots and another pot and a skillet and just a heating plate, pretty much just to cook all this. And here's my ingredients. I don't have any breadcrumbs, so I'm going to be using some pretzels, or actually breadsticks, I should say. Some eggs to bind. I'm going to put in some mushrooms, and definitely got to have some salt and pepper in it. And when I was at the grocery store the other day, I was planning on just buying some hamburger meat, but then he told me that it was pork and beef 50-50 mixture. I was like, you know what? I think I'll just make some meatballs instead. So that's what I'm going to be making today. And spoiler alert, the beer is for myself. Next step is going to be putting my penny pasta into my semi-boiling water. Unfortunately, that's a little louder than I thought it was going to be. The water doesn't come to a rolling boil when I'm using this, so it kind of simmers more than rolling boil. And I'm going to take this opportunity to put salt in it. And that should be done in about 8 minutes or so. Over here I have diced up my mushrooms to put in my meatballs. Unfortunately, when you're using a butter knife, it's not the easiest thing to do. Then I smash some garlic, I'm going to let it sit there, then I'll dice that up and throw it in as well. Of course, we'll have to saute these first to get the moisture out and to bring flavor out of the garlic. And then I'm going to put these actually in the penny pasta after I saute them at the end and put them in. Then I'm going to, I don't have any breadcrumbs, so I'm going to break up some pretzel rods to make my binder with my meat, and I'll be doing that next. I'll be getting my meat ready and mixing it all together with these two items, some seasoning, which I didn't show earlier, which is my Crete seasoning that I had bought at the store, and that's about it. And not bad at all. All right, I'll throw some olive oil in here. And I'll go ahead and put your mushrooms in. Ooh, not those ones. I probably could, but I like to put in on those. Yeah, why not throw some garlic in there too? And I'll let that cook down a little bit and get the moisture out of those mushrooms. Maybe a little bit of salt and pepper, so I don't break it. All right, we'll check back in here when this is done and strained off for my meatball mixture. All right, unfortunately, I don't have a strainer, so I'm going to try straining it with a plate, and I poured my penny pasta into here so I could dump out as much water as I could beforehand. So we'll give this a try here. Let's open up another one of those bad boys. And you stick around to the end, I'll go ahead and break down how much this meal costs per person and per item. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and start sauteing this stuff up and get ready for my my meatballs. I actually added a little bit more oil to my pan there, and I turned it off. Gonna let that stuff simmer down there and get a little cooler. Just get some of that moisture out of those mushrooms so they don't make my meatballs too soggy. And I'm gonna be crushing those up in this bag. And this here bag was in our luggage, because we always carry those, because you never can tell when those might come in handy for something, whether or not you put your laundry detergent balls or little packets in there, or anything else, or any type of liquid that you don't want to spill into your luggage. That's always very helpful to have, and in this case it's good for breaking up breadcrumbs. So we'll go ahead and get that done, and we'll come back when it's done. Man, that stuff smells really good. And the good thing about this also is not only does it save you a ton of money from going out to the local restaurants, which cost you $50 to $70 to $80 for a lunch and maybe dinner, it gives you something to do on days like today where it's just pouring down rain. It's been pouring down rain all day, so we're saving money and finding something to do while we're sitting around the little apartment here. Now, and the other thing I will add is some seasoning. This is normally used for the Greek salad, but I'm sure it's got oregano and some other spices in there, so I'm sure that'll be fine on these meatballs. And I'm gonna go ahead and roll these things up, set this aside, and get my skillet going. I got extra oil in here that from the garlic and the mushrooms, so hopefully that adds a little bit more flavor when I go ahead and get those things browned up. Okay. Here is my cooled down version of my garlic and mushrooms, and honestly, I could heat this thing up and just get little bagel bites and probably just eat that, because that is pretty amazing tasting. But I'll be mixing that with my 50-50 pork beef along with an egg. And the interesting about eggs here in Europe is that they don't need to be refrigerated because they are not washed after they're laid. They're just they have a natural barrier on it when they're coming from the chicken, and if you don't wash it off, you're okay. So that's why they are here in Europe. They'll be not, you won't find them in the refrigerator section. Room in my glass so I could eyeball a measurement on my breadcrumbs here. And I'll just zip it close. All right, that will help. And these have sesame seeds in it, so I'm not really sure what kind of flavor that's going to add to my meatballs, but now I'm going to go ahead and put these meatballs in the skillet. I made about 8 meatballs with that pound of meat. And what I'll do is I'll brown these things up. And normally what I would do is put them in the oven after they've been browned to cook them the rest of the way. But we don't always have that option since we don't have an oven. And this little guy here is the cooked meatball to go well with my beer, which is also hot. But the thing is, I only use about half of my mixture of my pretzel rods, so probably could just use 2 of those. And the thing you gotta be careful about is this is just a like a discount store skillet, so it will not retain the heat. It doesn't have like a heat sink in it to help you keep it moving and keep it hot. So what I'll do is I'll keep moving these around, keep the heat up high. So here's the finished product. As you can see, the sesame ball's gone, and I've been gnawing away at the other ones too. Super good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the mushrooms in. And I actually didn't have to bring down the heat. I just kept cooking them on high heat. And it turned out pretty good. Turned out really good, actually. So I'll go ahead and saute these up a little bit, salt and pepper. Then I'll go ahead and add back my spaghetti sauce. And they only really had 2 types of spaghetti sauce. They had the Barilla, which I've had plenty of times, and they had this one here called Misco. And the Misco seems to be a little sweeter, which I don't mind, but I usually add a little bit of salt to it because I love salt, so that's why I do that. But let's go ahead and fry these up and then see how it turns out. Mustards are about done. I don't like cooking them too much because they get too soft and mushy. I like them to have a little bit of texture and still some flavor to them. Then we'll go ahead and add my spaghetti sauce in, and I didn't take the water out from the mushrooms because there isn't a lot of spaghetti sauce. I want to make it go as far as I can. And I also cooked the mushrooms up in the remaining juices from the meatball, so that should turn out pretty good. And then I'm going to pretty much just let this heat up thoroughly. Maybe add more salt, pepper to it. Maybe cook some of that water off. I don't know, we'll see. And then I'll go ahead and plate it up and we'll see how it looks.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we got this here boiling nice and hot so that it's taking off some of that water, not too much. I'll add some of add the meatballs back in to give them a little more flavor. My little spatula here. I'm gonna get the sauce through it a little bit. It would be really nice to have some tongs. Unfortunately, I don't have any. Turn the heat off, since it will remain scorching hot for a while. And I already plated up the spaghetti over there, and I will be over there in a second. So I'm going to pair this with the Greek salad that I had made previously. And then I'm just going to put a couple meatballs on here. And the penne pasta is probably actually more than I needed, but I wanted to use it up since I only got a little more time left here. We got 2 meatballs and a bunch of mushrooms there, and we got some Magic Van Greek wine. I think it's a Chardonnay. See how that pairs up here with this.
Okay, now let's taste this lovely dish that Jeff made. It's still steaming, so hopefully it's not too hot. That was very good. Get through some of this meatball here. Wow, that meatball is very good. Now we're going to try some of the Greek salad. Very good. Nice pairing, nice Italian and Greek. Oh, very good. Very